We are back inside City Hall, and as we approach the September 9th state primaries, we've been hosting a series of debates for state senate and assembly seats around the city. Tonight we're looking at the Democratic contest for the 52nd Assembly District. That includes a wide swatch of brownstone Brooklyn, including parts of Brooklyn Heights, Cobble Hill, Park Slope, downtown Brooklyn, and Gowanus. It's currently represented by Joan Millman, who is not seeking re-election. Joining me for tonight's debate are candidates JoAnn Simon, Doug Biviano, and Pete Sikora. And you guys told me, I didn't even realize this is the first debate that you've had. I thought the neighborhood groups would have gotten to you guys by now, but welcome, and I'm glad that you're here. As we get started, I want to clear up something with you, Doug Biviano, because there was all of this stuff about whether or not you should be invited and so forth. Up until, I guess, today, you had filed no activity reports with the State Board of Elections, and we weren't going to include you for that reason, but you're saying now that you've now spent something under $1,000. And I'm wondering, when did the campaign start for you?
It started a couple of weeks into petitioning. It was a late campaign, but that's not important. I find it curious that the real abuse in this district...
You're not going to read that statement. You should put that away. Folks,
well,
we're going to start by talking about the
no, it was pointed out. It was pointed out in the Daily News today that the Working Families Party...
Doug, you're not going to do this. I'll turn off the mic and I'll send you home. Don't do that. Don't do that, okay? Just don't do that. The closing of Long Island College Hospital is a key issue in this district. It's an accomplished fact. There doesn't seem to be any scenario realistically in which a full-service hospital of the kind that was there is going to reopen anytime soon. What is the path forward for the community, and what would you do as a member of the Assembly? Let's start with you, Pete.
Sure. Well, I founded Parents for Litch to fight to save the hospital and protect the services that we need in the community. So lots of folks joined in on that. Litch is an ongoing issue in the district. We have to make sure that it doesn't turn into a gigantic luxury condo tower, which would raise housing prices in the area and mar the neighborhood. We have to also preserve the services that we need for emergency care and acute care and clinics. It's possible that that process produces some affordable housing. That would be a plus, but we have to keep it inside the envelope of the buildings that exist today.
And so, as a member of Assembly, would you be introducing legislation? What would your specific role be?
Litch should never have been closed. We should have a fully functioning hospital there. It didn't have to close. The governor was wrong to push to close it. It was sold for real estate. As an Assembly member, I would be very, very involved in healthcare policy to push primary care in the areas and make sure that further hospitals aren't closed. Legislatively, we need a solution overall, and then in Brooklyn, we've got some serious, serious problems.
Okay, JoAnn Simon.
Yes. Well, I was involved on the ground at Litch from long before the cameras arrived, including many years ago, a couple of years before that, when Continuum was seeking to close the maternity and pediatrics departments, which would have closed the hospital. So we worked at that point. I worked very closely with the elected officials, and did SUNY Downstate, did come into ownership, which turned out to not be a match made in heaven. But the community got together. The community was there early on. The community was there long. They're still there, fighting to maintain services there and to keep the development that is there at a minimum. We know that there are like 19 buildings in the Litch campus, and we know that there will be housing there. What we need to do is make sure that there's an appropriate mix and that there is planning so that this doesn't just become towers without any services or any infrastructure. What I've already proposed is that one of my first bills in Albany would be the Healthcare Information Management Act, which would require the Department of Health to collect data on things such as how long it takes from 911 to getting to the ER, track pulmonary and cardiac deaths by borough, by neighborhood, and a number of other features such as that. Because what we're doing right now, if you look at the Fortis proposal, they have a number of subspecialties that they believe this urgent care unit will address. The fact is that nobody knows how they came up with that list. It seems to be political conjecture. What we need is hard data, and we need the health department to collect that data and then report that, because we can't assess the needs of the community, either our community or any other community, in terms of health care unless we're collecting the appropriate data and reporting it to the legislature.
Okay, so Doug, if you're Assemblyman come January, what to be done about the whole Litch issue?
Well, I think first of all, we have to talk about what's causing the problem with Litch. how the voters have lost control over the governing decisions in their own neighborhoods, like the closing of Long Island College Hospital, like the tearing down of libraries for luxury housing, like condos in the park. And you know, this control of our neighborhoods has been taken away from us by a private Tammany Hall that is not interested in serving the public, but instead tearing down our vital institutions that save our lives, that educate us, and give us enjoyment. But Litch in particular, there was a lot of deception about it. Mayor de Blasio used that as a campaign prop with my opponent, Peter Sikora, to get elected. The lobbyist consultant, Berlin Rosen, who represents Peter Sikora, did an illegal mailing for de Blasio's PAC, Citizens United type PAC, Campaign for One New York, stating that the protection that the community was going to get for emergency care with the proposed emergency room was adequate. Doctors in the community immediately disputed it.
Okay, so we'll go further into that, and I'll have to give him a chance to respond. But what would be your plan?
But they coordinated with a PAC. I want to make it clear. One New York, Berlin Rosen, coordinated with Peter Sikora's campaign illegally during a campaign season to do the mailer, the dark money mailer. You got that? Yeah. That needs to be investigated.
Okay, so again, if you're in the assembly in January, what would you do to sort of deal with the health needs of the community?
Well, first we have to we have to get the lobbyists and the consultants out of our community business. We have to take control back. We have to take the elections back from the special interests. We have to expose what's going on. We have to expose that Carl McCall and SUNY are using lawyers from the machine, the Democratic machine, in taking down a hospital, in closing a hospital.
Okay, let me give Peter
so we have to expose that.
To respond.
Those are some pretty wild accusations that are not true. I have a 20-year record of working as an advocate starting at NYPIRG. I caught the activist bug in college. My proudest accomplishment was passage of the Childhood Lead Poisoning Prevention Act, which was a very hard fight with real estate. I don't take any real estate donations. Went to work for Consumers Union. Now I work for a progressive labor union. My campaign is completely above board. We're very proud of the substantive message that we're providing.
Well, let me ask you in a different fashion. I mean, there is a sense that both when the mayor and you're one of the people who got arrested, I think, trying to stop the closure of Litch, was that the political symbolism didn't track with what subsequently happened, and now the hospital is closed.
So, you know, I think the mayor deserves actual enormous credit here for fighting for the hospital. I think he's been unfairly maligned. He stood up in that fight, so I was proud to stand with him. We organized rallies and Parents for Litch, 3 of them, with the now mayor, then candidate Bill de Blasio. We did a lot of petitioning, a lot of lobbying, a lot of work behind the scenes to try and save the hospital. He was engaged on the legal level and behind the scenes, both before and after the election. The governor and SUNY actually deserve the blame here for closing the hospital. This is a state system. It's not a city system. It's a state system. So
I want to get Joanne in on this in a very specific question. We have about a minute till the break. The way that the bid process went was really quite complicated. The first bidder had to drop out. The second one came in. It looked like what had been promised or what people got points for in order to win the bid was in the end either not economically feasible or perhaps was, I think lawsuits are now flying over how the bid process went. From your point of view, what did you see go wrong there?
I think that what went wrong is that they didn't give enough time to the second entity that was the second choice of the community. There clearly are some troubling signals with regard to how people scored those proposals, and particularly because healthcare was supposed to be the most heavily weighted of the categories. And in at least one case, it got no weight whatsoever. And that is the Fortis proposal. And that is exactly what we didn't want. That's what everybody who organized around this, whether it was the candidate de Blasio, whether it was other candidates, whether the elected officials, me as the Democratic district leader and a community leader, bringing together all of the neighborhood organizations. This was a huge issue, and it was participated in by a vast number of people. Their overwhelming single most important goal was health care, was to have a full-service hospital at Litch, which, by the way, is on high ground, which makes it valuable for real estate. It also makes it safe and sustainable.
Okay, we are going to take a short break now. We'll be back with this debate in just a minute. Also tonight, folks, is Governor Cuomo's primary challengers effort Teach Out picking up any traction among Democrats? We're going to talk it over with the 4 members of our Monday Consultants Corner. Stay with us.